Hey everyone, I have a very exciting show for you today. I have somebody that I want to get on the channel every couple of weeks, but he's busy. He's a 9-figure asset manager on the East Coast. He is looking at lots and lots of things. He is going to see pain before you and I. So let's welcome Ronnie Elias to the show. How you doing, Ronnie?
Hey, Mike, thanks so much for having me again. And then, a happy Labor Day, to you, the listeners out there. And most importantly, I hope everyone is kind of staying safe and healthy with everything going on these days.
Dude, Ronnie, you're such a nice guy. I appreciate all you do. You now are including me on some messages that are going on. I appreciate that. I read them all. We're going to talk about some of that. But before we do, Ronnie, I think we need to talk about where's the pain, right? I'm guessing in the last 2 months since our last interview, you're starting to see the cracks. My gut tells me it's probably in hotels or hospitality, but I could be wrong. So where's the pain, Ronnie?
I would say you kind of hit the nail on the head. A lot of pain in hotels. Also, a lot of folks that kind of the banks want to sell off some notes where it's a development deal or kind of like someone built a condo project. It isn't going very well with sales. They needed to hit some really big numbers for the project to work. And then of course, right now, hitting big numbers is very difficult. And, I'm sure you saw the article. It's been now maybe a couple months where, Chase said, hey, we're looking for, strong credit scores, at least, 20% down.
Yeah.
So, that changes people's mindset. Maybe, pre-COVID, you could maybe get away with, less down.
Yep.
And so forth. Yeah, I mean, it's, unfortunately, I think what, folks that have been through cycles are starting to see, the cracks in the concrete and things happening, unfortunately.
Yeah, and again, I've been doing this 20 years. I saw the last crisis up close and personal, and I think we talked last time. This time is going to be different. It's at least going to start different. Hence my suspicion about hospitality. Makes sense on condo projects. I don't know where those are. We'll dig into those a little detail, but my guess is they are in urban areas, because we have seen an exodus from urban cities, which probably is where the condos are, I'm guessing. The demand is lower. Oh, by the way, their highest vacancies ever, and rents are lower. I mean, it's just talk about a bad place to be today. But the suburbs, man, the suburbs are on fire.
Yeah, I mean, the suburbs, it's where it's where to be. I mean, you don't got to deal with, density, traffic issues, let's call it better quality of living.
Yeah.
And I will give you credit, you kind of, you asked me last time, hey, about New York, what do you think New York will do? And, I always try to give New York credit because it kind of has that grittiness, that toughness to it. But talking with some colleagues out in New York, I mean, it is truly a massive exodus. And it's kind of amazing. It's young people leaving, which you would think they would say, hey, I can weather this, but no, I mean, young people say, hey, I'm out of here.
Yep.
I mean, and then, hey, they're young, so maybe they could come back in 3 or 4 years. Who knows?
Who knows? But
I'm truly amazed about how strong this exodus is happening from New York.
Yeah, it is. Again, I knew in my investing career there would be a crisis that changed consumer behavior. I've invested through many crises and none of them changed consumer behavior. This is the one. Consumer behavior is changing. Density bad, urban bad, space good. And when you put that lens on New York, San Francisco, Seattle, Chicago, it just becomes not the right answer. And unfortunately, not the right answer for years. And then, oh, by the way, revenue goes down because the tax base goes down, and then services go down, and then taxes go up. And it's just not going to be a good place to be for 4 or 5 years. New York and San Francisco are going to have huge budget deficits for years to come.
Oh, and I think, I think they're going to also be very aggressive on property taxes. I don't think you're going to, you might be able to walk in there and say, listen, the values are down, but their viewpoint is, well, what do you want? I mean, we still, we still got to operate schools. We still need to
Yeah.
operate. So
Yeah. They have to run a balanced budget. They're not like the
yeah.
Fed. Yeah. All right. So when you think about hospitality, is it across the board, or is it kind of East Coast, West Coast, or?
It's been across the board, but I
Okay.
would say, definitely, Vegas,
That
or
makes sense.
Florida, Orlando. I think Orlando should somewhat be okay because, I mean, at some point in your life, we're all going to go see Mickey Mouse at Universal Studios. I mean, we have to go there. So, you know, it's kind of figuring it out. Okay, well, I have to buy this thing at a big discount,
Right.
because it's not going to be like I bought it and then magically tomorrow I can fill 80, 90% occupancy. That's not going to happen.
Right.
And you just don't want to, turn it into, hey, you should be charging $100. Now you're going to charge $30.
Right.
I mean, and especially if it's a flag product, I mean, Hilton or Marriott would have a lot. They probably would not like you doing these type of things. So it's just figuring out, how do you survive this next year of very low occupancy? And, one way maybe you could do it is, you try to, find hospitality workers and, hey, you go to a weekly rate. So you're trying, because I mean, that's the only, you might have some business folk, folks that of course do work with Disney or Universal, could try to stay, but it's going to be difficult.
Yeah. I mean, this is what I think about. I think about restaurants first, because they're kind of localized, they're mom and pop, but this applies to hotels as well. There's going to be a lot of people that lose assets today, but that sucks. That's terrible. That's bad, blah, 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 blah. But when you flip over, creative destruction, there are going to be people stepping into deals that will be profitable because they'll buy them at such a discount, right? They'll be almost break even for a year. But once that year is up, a vaccine, people are getting back on airplanes, they're going to be printing money hand over fist. Right. I think, creative destruction is part of the capitalist system, and we're right on the cusp of seeing some capital destruction.
Oh, I absolutely. I mean, you've got to be, I mean, right now, I mean, you have to be, one, you got to figure out, hey, we need to run as a remote organization for, a foreseeable future. Two, we need to be using technology to figure out, how do we deal with things? And, I think, I don't want to be a pessimist, but, God forbid there's a second wave of this thing. First off, how is the government going to react? Are we going to go into some type of another, lockdown? And, what does that do? So I think, you really have to be prepared, and, you need to use technology to, like, for example, look, Instacart, DoorDash, Grubhub. I mean, these companies have exploded and become very popular. I mean, look at Zoom. Zoom's just been lightning in the bottle. I mean,
4x revenue, baby. Yeah.
I mean, that's been killer. And, a lot of companies are, now telling people, hey, we are, hey, we're going to run remote for 6 months, a year, possibly indefinitely. And, that's definitely going to be some major disruption.
Yeah. So I want to talk about Vegas a little bit, because I've been saying for a while that Vegas is going to be an apex market of stress and frustration. But I have a broker, a residential broker on the last couple of months, and they've actually broken records. Let's see, it's September. So July was 325 grand for single family homes, followed by 328 in August. Let me hang up my phone.
No problem.
There we go. There we go. There we go. That's what happens when we record these things live. So again, the residential market's on fire. I think it's fake. They have 20% unemployment, all of that stuff. But again, as we kind of open this up, I believe you're going to see the pain first, and then residential will feel it next. So residential's not feeling it yet, but you might be. So what are you seeing in Vegas? Are any casinos blowing up or hotel developments blowing up or anything?
No, I seen. We saw two like hotel deals. For us, the problem with hotels is, while yes, it's real estate. The problem is it's an operating business. I mean,
Yes.
you've got to have, you need staff, management, day to day. Are you a branded hotel or
Right.
not? And then, every 3 to 5 years, XYZ brand will come to you and tell you, guess what? It's time to renovate.
Yeah.
Here's
New
our
paint colors and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's now money back in. And then, oh, by the way, while you're doing that, guess what? You're shutting down floors and revenue. So you're putting money in, losing money. So it's not a
So no opportunities yet, but you are seeing some pain is what I'm hearing.
I definitely seeing pain. I think also, Nevada is a very unique market. It has some very strong lows and then some very ridiculous highs.
No joke. Yep.
There are some, if again, looking at 2008, 2010 time period, there are some people that they were buying, 5, 10, 20, homes or an apartment complex at a discount because, the worst thing is, God forbid, you bought an apartment complex, a third of those workers, work at XYZ casino, and then that XYZ casino just lays 50% of the workforce.
I got to tell you this, if you bought an apartment building in Vegas in 2019, you are sucking wind right now.
Oh yeah. This is, and then, hey, you want to talk about, from us, hey, we don't have a dog in the fight.
Right.
I don't know if you saw, I don't know if you saw CDC just said, hey, no evictions.
I did. I saw that.
Till December 31st.
I saw that. Yep.
Now, I believe, let's just say 90% of the time, people will be honest and do the right thing. Yeah. Now, are there some people, hey, whatever you want to call them, professional tenants?
Yeah, they want to play a game. Yep.
Yeah. So now they could say, okay, well, September, October, November, December, I could technically sit 4 months and pay nothing.
Yep.
Now, I'll probably eradicate my credit score.
Correct.
When I leave there, but that's a decision people have to make.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And then at the end of the day, common sense is, if someone lost their job, hey, listen, you still got to go through the process. Hey, you got to pay us rent. Yep. Maybe I would work out a payment plan if it's possible. Hey, maybe, hey, every 10 days, let's break it up or do something, especially if they've been a good tenant with you. Yeah. And you can really tell, hey, they used to work at whatever casino or wherever, and they got let go. Yeah. The best thing is to try to work with people because I've had some colleagues where they're uber aggressive on some tenants. And then what happens is, okay, you wanted to do this. Well, you ain't getting paid. And then when they come look at the unit, they just put, they cause like, $10,000, $20,000 worth of damage.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah. It's crazy.
And you don't want to be putting that type of money and when you're not even getting any type of rent. That's the worst thing. Yeah.
What I've told people, I'm a landlord, and I've told people time and time again, 95 to 98% of my tenants are awesome, hardworking. But you got to remember, as the landlord, it's your job to run a qualified process before you say yes to an applicant. If you're just saying yes to everyone, you are welcoming problems, right? Your qualification process needs to do a better job of finding those professional tenants early and not saying yes. Because if you do your homework and you run a tight box, you can weed out most of them. You're never going to find them all, but that's the landlord's job. And then, yes, totally agree. Do the right thing. This is unfortunate times. I have forgiven now almost 10 grand in rent for different people that were hurt. I also have some people playing a game. I think I'm down almost 50 grand collectively, because in California, they've been able to say no rent since March. So, now I'm going to go March through December. It's like 9 months these people are going to get free. And then, oh, by the way, I'm in California. They're going to be there March to March not paying. So anyways, we don't have to go down that rat hole. I don't want to go there. But I do want to talk about being a 9-figure asset manager. You're probably more excited now than you were 2 months ago because you are seeing cracks. But when's an asset manager of your size start to stroke checks, or I don't know what I guess it's not checks, it's probably wires. But when do you start moving chips around the chessboard? Is it this year, or are you looking at next year as the time? Or
I think honestly, we are looking realistically, the deals won't happen till next year.
Yeah.
Now that doesn't mean, December is always a funky month.
Okay.
December, someone might
taxes,
just be,
yeah,
someone might be like, what, I want to, if you can get this deal off my books
right
by December 31st, it's yours.
Right.
If not,
that makes sense.
And then, December, I think now that we're all been working remotely, sometimes, no discredit to the bankers, but, bankers like to take, time off, or, hey, it's the holidays, I'm out. But now, hey, we're
all in. Yeah.
Technically, all of us are out of the office and we've been operating out of the office. That doesn't really mean anything. I do think you'll see some deals kind of end of the year.
Okay. That makes sense.
Something very, but I think realistically, you're not probably going to see anything till Q2 2021.
Yeah, that's good to know, because I think that's when the pain starts in residential too, because of all this extend and pretend, the forbearance waivers, all of that stuff. And plus what I think happens by then is we are coming out of this. We're probably coming out of a second wave. God forbid we have one. We have a vaccine. It's been adopted by those that want to do it, and those that don't, so be it. I think the economy really starts to hit its stride kind of April, May, June of next year. But by then, just like Warren Buffett says, you always find out who's swimming naked, right? Once you take away all the stimulus, all the forbearance, you're going to find out, whoops, what 5, 6, 10% of my portfolio is bad that I have to deal with. So I think that's coming.
Yeah, 2020 will probably go down in the history books as, it's just,
a dud.
Now, is 2021 a restart, or is 20? Because the problem is, if you kind of look back at 08, 010, because that's kind of,
I know
recent,
it.
Usually the first punch isn't the one that knocks you out. It's that second punch that comes right out and lays you flat on the ground. Now, if we are truly going through a reset, or kind of maybe new depression, just for 18 months or 24 months, I think that second punch, whenever it comes, is going to be a difficult one, because at the end of the day, listen, the banks are going to look at people and say, okay, the apartment guy now can't pay the mortgage, so he needs help. The office guy has been crying for the last 6 months, telling me he can't pay. Yeah. Now the shopping center guy has been telling me also he can't pay rent. And hopefully the industrial guy is paying, because everything.
Somebody's got to pay.
Yeah, but the bank's going to say, listen, last time I checked, we're not the Red Cross.
Can't help everybody.
We can't. Exactly. So they're going to have to now say, okay, listen, I'm sorry, but hey, it clearly says you don't pay, I've got to take action. And we tried the forbearance thing. We kicked it down the road. I can't kick the can again down the road.
Right.
Hey, we got to make, something
got to have a clearing function. Yeah,
exactly. And it is what it is. And that's, it's an unfortunate incident, but hey, what can we do? It's the new reality. Prices are where they're at. Tenants can only pay X, and some tenants are not paying. And you've now got to come in and clean up things.
I think we're going to have I don't know if you want to call it the Great Reset or a flattening or whatever you want to call it, But just like last time, I was one of those. The most active year for my acquisitions was 2010. I
Awesome.
bought stuff hand over fist. As a single person, right? No pool, no capital raises, nothing. Just the wife and I. And yeah, we did every deal we could. We borrowed from every place we could. We got loans on cars. We borrowed from 401k, man. We were buying everywhere we could. So I remember that time, and it could come again. It could come again, late 2021 maybe. That clearing function is going to be something to watch. So pretty cool. So one thing I wanted to ask you about, you sent me some things that I want to talk about specifically. Sure. The first one was actually the last thing you sent me, was the Pinterest office building, right?
Yeah.
They secured 500,000 square feet. I think it was a 10-year lease, and they just spent $89.5 million breaking the lease. That's not a good thing, right?
No. I mean, and here's how I always, like, I look at things, and I always tell, all the team members here. I always say, I'm sure, you've been in real estate for a while. You always and real estate is a very unique place because there's a lot of characters in real estate.
Yeah, there are.
But I always, say whoever you're doing the deal with or whoever, these are smart people. Like, some people like to say, oh, I'm pulling a fast one on these guys. I'm going to get this for a great deal. But I always say, everyone that's in this transaction are very smart people. Now, Pinterest is a very talented company.
Yes.
I'm sure if you went through there, you'd probably see a ton of Harvard, Stanford. I mean, these are not dumb people.
Yes.
And they made and don't forget, this is like a one-time check.
Yes.
Here is $90 million, just, moving across the table, and hasta la vista.
Yeah.
Now, they're probably looking at it as, okay, I think the 10-year commitment would have costed them like $450 million or $440 million, something like that. So let's just say, for argument's sake, in their mind, okay, we paid 9% of what we were going to pay over 10 years.
Yep.
Here's the check, hasta la vista. And if we really need office space, we'll look at it at that point. And who knows, maybe at that point, we'll get even a sweeter deal because someone's going to be, hurting to get a tenant in there.
Yeah. I think that's interesting because I didn't even think about that angle. You're right. They signed that lease right at the peak of the market. It was a Class A building. It's not even developed. I'm not even sure if it's finished yet, but it's Class A, probably the highest per square foot of any lease in that office building. Now they paid, I like that. They paid 9% to get out. Clearly they're pulling what most technology companies are, is they've stopped recruiting in San Francisco. They're now recruiting across the country. Yeah. And just that's going to save them office space, but it's also going to save them taxes and all of these other functions. They will make up that 9% probably in 24 months, just in payroll taxes and all those other things. So that's what I think they looked at is, A, we don't need it. B, we don't want it. We can't I bet you they definitely evaluated subletting it. It's like, can we sublet this? Or like, nope, we paid too much. Nobody else wants it. We're out. And oh, by the way, they're going to hire a lot less people in California. I think that is the number one thing I took from that. I looked at that article. I'm like, I bet you 90% of their hires, 80% of their hires are not in California going forward.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, right now, because of, whatever, let's call it COVID, remote working or having team members outside of the state or wherever HQ is, that's normal. What's wrong with it? Let's do it. We can build the technological backing for it and have that the tools. I mean, we can do every Wednesday a stand-up the video call as a team and so forth. I think clearly I'm sure they even tried to go back to the landlord and say, hey, can we renegotiate the terms?
I'm sure.
And maybe they were just too far back. And let's also not forget that San Francisco has instituted some rather high taxes. Back to our earlier point about property taxes, they've set some pretty aggressive taxes on income. So they were headquartered in San Francisco. So a lot of their employees would have suffered increased taxes in the years ahead. And again, they said, nope,
we're going to hire elsewhere. Sorry, California, you're going to lose that. So I think it was a wise business decision, and I think it's going to be one that more and more technology companies make, which means San Francisco's in trouble for a little while. So that's that one. So I want to read this Peter Drucker quote that you sent me. I think it was about a week ago, and I think people really need to hear this, and then I want to hear what it means to you. The quote was, "The greatest danger in times of turbulence is not the turbulence, it is the act with yesterday's logic." First, thanks for that, but what does that mean to you?
Sure. I think that means to me is, if you look at these last couple of years, we've had that magic word, value add.
Yeah.
And everything was value add. It didn't matter, where it was, it could be a class A to class D. I mean, come in here, let's spruce it out, put $5,000, $7,000, $10,000 a unit, and you can push rents $100, $200, who knows, $300.
Yeah.
And that's why you could, pay a ridiculously low cap rate.
Yep.
So you're technically paying a tomorrow price today,
right,
because you think you can accelerate appreciation and accelerate income.
Yep.
Well, right now, I do not think that's going to happen. Now, I still continue to see people saying, oh, we can still value add, we can still push rents, we can do this. I just think that is a very dangerous game to be playing where we are right now in the cycle.
Yeah.
I think you've got to focus on what is your cash, what is income today, and being realistic that, hey, maybe for the next year, there might be no income growth, or for the next 2 years, there might be no income growth.
For sure.
And just, attack at that viewpoint.
Yeah, I think that is awesome. Again, the whole idea of turbulence, it's not the turbulence that gets you, it's the mistakes you make in it that get you. So you're right. Value add was the thing, buying at a reduced cap rate because you tell yourself you could, get more rents by doing this and that. And really what that points to me, again, I bought apartment buildings for nothing down in 2010 directly from banks. They were community banks, but nonetheless banks. I think there's a lot of value add stuff that was done in 19, maybe even late 18, that won't be able to refi out, right? If they have 2 or 3 year bridge debt,
they're done. They're done,
right?
Done. The bridge lender, first off, they're going to wake up because they're thinking in their mind, I got 5 years. Well, no, it's 3 + 1 + 1.
Exactly.
So what's going to happen? The bridge lender is going to come to them, be like, okay, you want to extend it for a year? Let's do an appraisal. Okay, guess what? It came back. The value now is $5 million less.
Yeah, so less than you paid.
Yeah. So I need you to put in $5 million, and I might need some extra reserve. So why don't you go ahead and put in,
7.5.
Yeah, 7.5. Or you know what? I'm feeling good. Let's make it $6 million. So
you're right.
When can I pick up the check for $6 million? And that person's going to be like,
Yeah. So what happens? I mean, because that's going to happen, and that's going to happen. To me, I think hotels go first just because the numbers are so wacky, right? You can't run a hotel at 20% occupancy. I'm already seeing, I think there was a hotel that just closed in New York, like yesterday or the day before, like a downtown property. I should have looked it up, but I saw a headline. I forget which one. So hotels will go first, but multifamily, I'm guessing late 21, probably 2022. So how does that happen? Right? The person comes back to refi the bridge debt. The bridge lender says no. They ask for money. The borrower says no. Do you just go right to sale at that point? Is that kind of what happens?
It depends what state they're in. If they're in a non-judicial foreclosure state, like maybe Georgia.
Okay.
So the bank would then tell, because the deed is then with a trustee.
Right.
And they're going to tell the trustee, John Doe has defaulted on their mortgage.
Yep.
Please turn over the deed to me. If they're, let's say, in Florida, they'll have to go through the court system, foreclose on it, and then if there were any personal guarantees,
you'll carve it out at the back end. Yeah. That's Yeah, you're going to learn a lot about judicial and non-judicial states. I'm in California; it's non-judicial, judicial state, where Florida is one, and New York is one. That's why you saw all these long foreclosures in New York and Florida,
Exactly.
and not California. So yeah, I'm going to be buying a lot of houses because houses are going to go up. I invest in a quote unquote suburb, so I'm smiling, right? My suburb's up 10% year on year. Inventory is down to a month's supply. Can you imagine that? A month's supply?
Wow.
It's just crazy. So that brings me to my last point. And I want to actually bring this up because it was a Blackstone article you sent me. And I personally think Blackstone has a collection of some of the smartest people in real estate out there,
Absolutely.
in my opinion. So it says the future, according to Blackstone, is less density and a lot less new construction. So the less density I get, I don't know that I agree with less construction unless they were focused on the urban environment.
Well, Blackstone, first off, is like what the Costco, or, they're the biggest, the baddest. I mean,
Yes.
these guys, I mean,
they're the Amazon of real estate.
yeah, like, if you were to quote unquote go into Blackstone's house, they're a company, of course, but you flip the couch,
Yeah.
you might find $1 billion laying
Just laying around.
Yeah, that's how how massive these guys are.
Yeah.
They did recently, I think it was homes to rent, like
Oh yeah.
they're doing a massive deal where they're going to be building a lot of
I think
single
that is
family.
genius.
Yeah.
Genius. That is the thing you got to figure out, right? I've actually been saying, if anybody can figure out that model, home run, because you don't have to put in the highest black backsplash and granite. It's just they want 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, 2-car garage, paint the walls, call it a day. We're done.
Exactly, and just cookie cutter it.
Boom,
We've
boom,
got
boom, boom, boom.
1 or 2 models maximum, and then just wood construction, stucco it, and boom. And it's a 2-color scheme, gray and white, or tan and white, and that's it.
That's it, right? Because then again, you make maintenance easier. It's everybody. I don't know if everybody knows, but Southwest Airlines, one of the things that made them more profitable than other airlines is they only bought 1 aircraft, the 737. Why? Well, over the course of 20 years, they only need parts for a 737. They only need pilots for a 737. They only need stewardesses, a 737. Yeah, if anybody can find this build for rent, do 1, maybe 2 models, but it's all the same parts. Dude, you've got a huge profit scale because you don't have to inventory all that other stuff.
Absolutely. And then they could just package it up like almost like an apartment complex and say, hey, here's 200 homes.
Anybody want it?
Yeah. They're paying whatever, $1,000 a month, and sell it off and move. I mean,
insurance companies would buy that in a heartbeat.
Absolutely. It's a continuous money stream. Yep. And they'll pay whatever, 4 or 5%.
Oh, easy.
And they'll love it because they'll be like, okay, hey, it's a house, new construction, blah blah blah. I mean, they'll love it. And I think I don't know if it was the CEO of Blackstone or there was someone high up at Blackstone, and they interviewed him, and they were telling him, you guys have started to have like so many home runs. Why are you guys so successful? And I think his response was, he had, I think it's the CEO, he had pushed an investment, and the investment went completely sideways. Like, it was horrible. Like them and, the folks that invested in them in this deal, it lost big time. Yep. And he was, he was on a phone call with one of the big investors that went on to this deal. And, the investor was saying, hey, I mean, do you know what the hell you're doing? You're not the most intelligent person. And I'm sure, there were, some 4-letter words probably used.
New Yorkers, I'm positive there were 4-letter words used.
Right. And he said that has stuck with him for the longest time. Having that conversation with an investor telling them they lost their money, the thing went sideways, that has really stuck with him because he says, I never want to have that conversation again. Wow. And I think that's the problem that, we're about to experience. Some people who have done amazingly well for the last 5-7 years, did not see '08 to '10, or they
Right.
weren't in the market in
Yeah,
'08,
we have
'10.
so many people that have been talking like the last 5 years were like the market. I'm sorry, the last 5 years were the easiest market to invest in. Yeah, if you don't have scars from '08 to 10, I almost don't want to talk to you because it's about to get nasty.
Right. And that is, because you have not yet seen your banker go from a nice guy to saying, where is my money? Where's my money? And almost become like that Uncle Vinny type character.
Oh yeah.
Bankers are wonderful, nice people, great. Hey, come borrow money with me. But when things start to really go bad,
Yeah.
that is not a situation you really want to be in. And
Yeah, you're right.
God forbid if you signed, well, first off, no one wants to lose people's money. I mean, that's the worst thing. As people entrusted you with the money, and then you got to tell them, hey, the deal's gone sideways. And then, on top of that, now the bank says, well, guess what? You signed personal guarantees on this thing,
We're coming.
Yeah. And they're telling you up front, we think the thing is, you borrowed 10 million. We think the thing is worth 6 million. So even once we take it back from you, when can we pick up that check for 4 million?
Yeah.
And you're like, there ain't gonna be no check for 4 million. But, people have not yet been, and then look, we've had so many retailers go bankrupt. I mean, it's kind of amazing, reading, the problematic retailers here. I mean, here in Northern Virginia, we had Brookfield, which is, they're massive. They interviewed them. They told them, and this was actually Tuesday, they interviewed them on Monday, and they were telling them, hey, the loan matures tomorrow. And I think it was like a $200 million loan. And they're asking him, so what are you guys going to do? Are you going to be paying off the loan? And they're like, we ain't paying off the loan.
Wow.
So I think now what you're going to start to see is a game of chicken. Some folks are going to say, bank, you have to work with me. Or I guess if you really want to take it back and deal with the headaches, go at it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be fun, Ronnie. Well, thank you very much, man. We got to get you on every couple of weeks. I think the market is going to be changing. You're going to be the first guy on my Rolodex to see the pain. So be well, stay safe, enjoy the long weekend, all right?
Same to you. Take care, guys. Thanks.